Hi everybody. I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about expectations and expectation management. The reason why is that when I'm working with my clients, I keep hearing about the frustration and anger and disappointment they have when they're working with other people. And it doesn't matter whether that's their employees or suppliers or other colleagues. They're working on projects and the results aren't being delivered, or very often not being delivered in the way they expected them to be. Before I go any further, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is John Sealey. I work as a breakthrough coach. So I'm working closely with people, driving them towards those game-changing breakthroughs that are the difference in life between kind of surviving and just getting on in life and really thriving and loving what you do, loving the job you're working in, loving the life you're leading. Now, I think when it comes to expectations, this is actually one of the Achilles heels in that whole sort of communications arena. Because if you think about it, if your expectations aren't being met, if people are annoying you and disappointing you because the results aren't as you thought they should be, what does that say about the respect you have for those people? Or the trust you have in each other? Or in fact, your desire or your motivation to carry on working with them in the future? Bit of a problem, isn't it? I think some typical examples of these disappointments could be, you get a colleague to write a presentation for you because you need it to present to the big boss. And you think you've agreed that it's about subject A. And they go ahead and write a great presentation and give it back to you just before you're supposed to go into the meeting with your boss. And unfortunately, they've got the wrong end of the stick as far as you're concerned, and it's much more about subject B than subject A. Or you get an invoice from a supplier which is 50% higher than the budget you're pretty sure that you actually agreed on when you agreed to work with them in the first place. How did that come about? Where were the expectations there? And a favorite one, and I'm sure we've all been in this, is you go into a meeting and you've actually got maybe two different things that you want to discuss in that meeting, where you need action, where you need agreement. And there's so many other things being discussed that you get to the end of the meeting and your issues haven't actually been put on the agenda. They haven't been decided upon. And that's very frustrating. I think the basic problem that we often have is that we're pretty inarticulate at expressing our outcomes that we actually really want to see. We tend to tell people to do things or assume that they understand what we mean when we ask them to do something. And if we haven't articulated entirely clearly what the outcome is, what the parameters are in our own minds, then when we give this information, or we don't give this information onto those people who are working for us, the problem is they then start interpreting things their way, and they develop their own expectations or assumptions around what needs to be done. When you bring all of that together, you then get the anger and frustration that we've already talked about. If any of this sounds familiar, then maybe it's time to get sexy with your expectations. Now, before you say, no, hang on a minute, what kind of coach was he saying he was? He's a breakthrough coach? Well, what does being sexy with my expectations have to do with that? Well, SExI is actually an acronym for a useful little tool that I use to filter and to assess my expectations, and also to filter and assess those of expectations that are put in my direction when somebody asks me to do something. So S stands for success, or success factors. What is the actual real outcome that you want from the task that you're giving somebody? You say to them, I need a new functioning landing page by close of business on Tuesday next week. That is pretty clear what the outcome is that you want. X, the EX of SExI, stands for expectations. What do you expect these people to do? How do you expect them to behave? If you say to them, I'd like you to show me a draft of the website by Friday because this project has top priority, then that's something that they understand. If you also say to them, and please, if anybody else tries to give you any other work that could affect the timing of the development of this landing page, then please tell me about it immediately and I will discuss it with them so that your time doesn't get stolen for some other project, because that's how important this project is. Then that's pretty clear expectations. And the last letter in SExI is not actually a Y, it's an I, and it stands for important considerations. What are those other things that we need to think about and consider while we're doing this project, for example? Well, how about knowing and informing your colleague, this is actually a pet project of the CMO. So she is actually watching this very, very closely, which is why we need to get this right. And by the way, there's a budget of 10,000 for this. So please, when you develop the landing page, bear that budget in mind so that we don't have discussions about financing at a later date. So that is actually what I would like to share with you today. That is kind of like bringing SExI back into the area of expectation management. If you found this valuable and you need any help in either defining and clarifying expectations, or in any other area where you'd like also to have some game-changing breakthroughs in your life, please let me know. Please send me a private message and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much. Until next time, this was John Sealey. Bye-bye.